Hi, I'm Bruce Fretz. I'm here to introduce the wonderful Emmy nominee, Sarah Goldberg. So I think that was probably an episode that a lot of the actors in the room here probably identified with some of the situations.
Familiar, overly familiar.
So let's go back to the beginning of your Barry experience. At least, what was your audition process like for this role?
Oh God. Okay. Well, I was in LA visiting a friend, and my very lovely manager, who's my good friend of 20 years. It was handy to have someone who saw all your school plays working for you. And he was like, "Bill Hader has this pilot, and it's your part." And I was like, "Yeah, good one. Let's do that. Sure, sign me up." Anyway, he fought for me to get in the room. He made this like really funny Sally-esque reel. And I just went in for casting like the regular way that you do thousands of times and hear nada. And then the casting director called me back in the next day for a guest part on Gotham, which I didn't get, fun fact. And at the end of that audition, she took me into her office and was like, "Why haven't we met?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she, because you've never got me in before, that's why. And so, so she was like, "I know you're leaving town because I live in New York, and Bill Hader wants to meet you before you leave. Is it okay if I give him your number?" I was like, "No, please don't." So anyway, Bill called me up and he was like, we'd love to have you in to kind of improvise this character. You know, how would you feel about coming in and improvising with me?" And I was like, "Not great. I don't do that, you know? Like, can we do some Shakespeare or something? You're like the prince of comedy in this country." But I was like, "Okay, oh, yeah, I'll do it," obviously. And so he gave me a couple scenarios, and we went in and we had this really fun hour improvising. And it was a really special experience because I'm sure you all know, like, most auditions are so soulless or cold, and it was like being led by an actor. He just knew all the shit experiences that he'd had. He knew how to make everyone feel comfortable and safe, and so we goofed around basically. And I remember feeling like it was a rehearsal, not an audition, and that was such a rare experience, and continued tonally that way throughout both seasons. And yeah, then they called me in for a screen test, which I was 38 minutes late for. I've never been late for anything in my life. Went to the wrong studio, not from Los Angeles. And it all happened, which was kind of wild, yeah.
So what is it like working with Bill? Because obviously he's one of the creators of the show as well,
Yeah.
really one of the visionaries along with Alec Berg. So what's your interaction with him like on set as a co-star as well as kind of a showrunner?
Yeah, it's a great question. Bill and Alec they're such a good duo. It just feels like their energies are so complementary. And yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. They've created this really collaborative environment. I feel like they really listen to everyone. They try to create a space where everyone has as much space as possible to do their best work. So we rehearse everything. We rehearse like a play. We get together in between block shoots of the episodes with our DP and move through everything and gently block things. And it's an opportunity for everyone to pipe up and say, "Oh, this line feels eggy," or, "I've got an idea for a joke here." And it's really special. I know, they're just both such good bosses. And then for Bill, he has to wear a lot of hats. He's in the writer's room, and then he is directing us, and then he's acting, and then sometimes directing himself. But I think because he has Alec, it really works because there's always kind of an outside eye, someone, and they have such a shorthand with each other. Yeah, it's pretty joyful, honestly. It's and I remember shooting the finale of season 2. It was tough because we had this massive long shot all from the dressing room through all of backstage and onto the stage, and it was such a big setup and really ambitious for television, something that would happen in a Robert Altman movie but not on TV. And And then we set the whole thing up in rehearsal, and we got on stage, and then we got to the scene, and Bill didn't know any of his lines. And I was like, Bill, you got to look at the script. And he was like, oh shit. Yeah. Cause he was so focused obviously on making sure the shot was set up. And so then we had a quick line rehearsal backstage, and then, but he's really good at jumping between the roles. I'm not sure how he does it. It takes a lot of energy.
So do you base the character of Sally on anyone that you know, or
trick question? I can't say that because a lot of people don't like her. So if I named any names, I would say that she's a mix of people I've met. A few people I've met in bars in Los Angeles. A few people I've met in method acting classes I took as a kid. A few people I've met in theater school. A few people I've met in audition rooms. She's a piece of a lot of things. And I actually, Sally gets a bad rep, but I really care about her. She's a lost soul, and that town can really, really take advantage of people in her position. And I feel like she's really drunk the Kool-Aid, and she has this myopic tunnel vision obsession. And she's, I think she's lost. And I think she's found these answers, but really in the wrong place. She treats Gene almost like a therapist, and he ain't licensed. So, and I think she's trying to get to some truth in herself, but she's looking in all the wrong places. And I care about it. I care about her a lot. Meeting that girl in LA, you go, oh, so, and it's funny, that she's sort of been pegged as this dislikable character, and all the men on that show kill people. So
interesting points.
Fun little bit of misogyny for you.
Well, I like Sally, actually. I think
thanks.
it's a testament.
Thanks on her behalf.
I think it's a testament to your talent that you managed to make her, sympathetic at the same time, and that you want her and Barry to find happiness together.
That's nice.
So let's talk about this.
I feel like, do we want them to be happy? I feel like it's a dysfunctional relationship.
They're both
but I
lost
appreciate
souls,
that.
though,
Yeah.
They could maybe give each other solace.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this episode in particular, and especially the monologue. It's such a tour de force.
Thanks.
How did you prepare for it? How many takes did it take? And what was the process like?
Well, Bill came up to me early in the season, I think around episode 2 when we were shooting, and he's like, I have this idea, and we're going to do 2 full pages, and we're going to have no punctuation, and you're not allowed to breathe, and you're just going to keep talking, and it's going to be great, okay? And I was like, great. Sounds fun. Anyway, so then we got closer to shooting episode 7, and we had a table read, and he gave me a script, and he was like, here's the scaffolding, but you can go away and do your Sally spin on it now. So that was really... it was a lot of creative trust, and it was really kind. And so I put a lot of work into it, and just wanted to use it as an opportunity to have some fun with the meta aspects of the show. We had a lot of frustrations during shooting that, I'm the only female series regular, and we all find ourselves asking questions like, what are we saying about women? And the frustration of that, of just as a character, why do you have responsibility for half the species? So and Sally's not every woman, So we I wanted to put some of that into the monologue, and so we had fun with that. And I also wanted to put in that she has difficulty necessarily she can't quite distinguish fiction and reality sometimes. And I have this idea that she's always on YouTube watching famous actresses. So I tried to really rip off Annette Bening in American Beauty with the talking to herself in the asparagus dinner scene without even knowing it. Sally's internalized these people and wants to be them so badly that she's behaving that way. And so, there's a lot of ideas went into it. And normally if I'm going to do anything that's not scripted, I would always, audition it for the guys, but they were like, surprise us. So I worked really hard on it, and I learned it like a piece of music because it had to go so fast, and I knew that the idea was always going to be one long take, which from theater, it's it's something that we should all do, but in TV you so rarely get the opportunity to do that. So I rehearsed it like a song, and I like slowed it way down and figured out all the beats, and then I kept speeding it up because I'm like, if this has any chance of not getting cut, it's got to be fast. So anyway, we got to set, and I was really nervous. Like we're such a family. It's rare to be nervous on that set, but I was genuinely quite nervous. And then they called action, and I just kind of went for it. And then Bill was very sweet after and got the crew to applaud. And then Alec was directing the episode, and Alec was like, okay, we're moving on. And I was like, no. I was like, we can't move on. I was like, we need to do that again. And I very rarely ask for second takes or third takes or whatever number you're on, because I really trust them. And it's like, we got it. But with this one, I was like, I've spent so many hours on YouTube watching Annette Bening. Can we please have one more? And so we ended up doing 4, which was my fault, because I just wanted to keep going. And they used the 4th, I think, because I think I finally felt free in that one, and let it go a bit, or, and just had some fun. But yeah, it was a real gift, and I got to really thank the guys for that. And then, you expect to show up to ADR and it to be just totally cut. Like, where did the monologue go? But they kept it in, which was lovely. Yeah.
And the episode was written by a woman, though, right? Liz Sarnoff is credited. So did you think that was a factor in that speech? I mean, because it seemed like it could have come off as being kind of stereotypically hysterical, but there's so many, sort of minor shifts in tone through the way.
Yeah, and Liz is seriously the magician behind the whole operation. It's Alec and Bill, and then there's Liz, and she's so smart and she's so experienced. And obviously different writers are credited for different episodes, but everybody's voice is in every episode. And Liz is a real champion for Sally, and she writes very clever things for her. And like, I don't know if in season 1 there was the scene with the agent, and it was Liz and Emily Heller, one of our other great writers, in the writer's room. The guys wrote this scene where, Sally goes into this agent and she has this sexual harassment moment. And in the original draft, she got very defiant and immediately stood up for herself. And the guys were like, what do you think? And Liz and Emily were like, no. They're like, this isn't what would happen. She, unfortunately, like, she would probably apologize, and she would probably be embarrassed and not know how to handle it, not have the words in the moment, that you might need in that scenario. And they really were so smart about how they wrote that. And I think Bill and Alec were quite grateful. They were like, that's what it is. Liz is a genius. So.
And you're not the only Emmy nominee in the cast. The entire regular cast was nominated for Emmys this year.
I mean, that honestly was the most special thing about it. It was such a lovely feeling, because it's such a collaborative endeavor, and we do feel a little bit like a traveling troupe with our little, for the show took so long between when we started the pilot and when it aired. It almost felt like we were this kind of theater company doing a show out in Pasadena, because it didn't exist in any other way except in our imaginations for a couple of years. So we became really close in that time, and everybody, we've got the epic group chain to end all group chains, and we get on so well, and it just felt really celebratory, and also a real testament to Bill and Alec. I think that their writing and directing is that solid, and Liz and Emily, that everybody was nominated. Like, it felt really like a singular special moment. And Stephen Root is
such a great actor. Has been such a great actor for so long.
Yeah, he's the most phenomenal actor and the most selfless actor, and the loveliest man. And he's so humble and probably too cool to even care that he's been nominated, but I'm really happy to see him get some recognition, because he's truly special. Yeah.
And you get to work a lot with Henry Winkler, who's the nicest man in the world.
He's the mayor of the world. Yeah, Henry Winkler is the kindest man on the planet, and he's I'm sure everybody's seen footage of him and whatever, or met him, and every bit of it is so genuine. Like, he treats every single person that he meets with the same focus and attention, and he's just so for someone who's been in this business for so long and seen different sides of the business as well and had such an extreme relationship to fame. I mean, when you think about Happy Days, I think there were like 5 channels, right? So everybody's watching that show. So when you're traveling with Henry in an airport, it's like people are coming up to him sobbing, going, "You were my childhood." It's really intense. And he's just so gracious and grateful. And yeah, he really is the epitome of grace. And like, he comes to work like with cake, like, you know, like it's like there's a whole, you know, table of cake already on set, but Henry's bringing more cake. And I remember when I started the job, I told my dad, I was like, "I'm working with Bill Hader." And he's like, "Who's that?" And he doesn't know any famous people. And I was like, "I'm working with Henry Winkler." And he went, "Fonzie?" And he got so excited. And I told Henry, I was like, "My dad doesn't know any actors' names, but he was so excited I'm working with you." And Henry just looks at me and he's like, "Well, does your dad FaceTime?" And I was like, "No, he doesn't know how to use FaceTime." And he was like, "Okay, well, when he learns how to use FaceTime, we'll call him." And he's just, I mean, I'd met him for a day at that point, you know, like he's just mensch of the world. Yeah.
So speaking of your family and your childhood, so you grew
Here we go.
You grew up in Canada, correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Vancouver.
So you weren't necessarily familiar with everything in terms of American culture. I'd read that you'd been in England for quite a while too after that.
Yeah.
So can you sort of take us through that journey of going from Canada to England and now back to?
Yeah, how long does everyone have? When I was 17, I decided I was going to go to Juilliard or nowhere else because I was a precocious little shit, and I, surprise, surprise, did not get in. And so then when I was 18, I went backpacking for a few months because I had no plan B. So I went backpacking and I fell in love with London. It was my first stop, and I saw a bunch of shows and just got this feeling about the place, like I really want to live there. And it just felt like the most magical place in the world for theater, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted to have a theater company, and that was my real dream. And so there was a theater school there, Lambda, that did auditions in Seattle. So I drove down to Seattle with my dad and and auditioned there, and it was kind of my one shot, and I got in. So I went, and that was a 3-year conservatory program, and then by the end I was home. You know, I had a life there, and so I was lucky in that when I was graduating, they turned it into a degree program, which, like, I don't know how you quite give a degree in acting. I don't know how you like give grades in acting, but yeah. And you know, I'm like, can you get graded on like lying down on the floor and breathing? I don't know, but anyway, I was very grateful for that degree because the government changed the laws the same year I got that degree that if you had a degree from a UK university, you could stay to work in the field that you studied. So I got a year, and then when that was up, I got another year because they changed it that you could apply for another year. So it was really a lot of luck. You know, I've had a lot of luck in my life, and so I was able to stay, and I had like, you know, tough year of waitressing and doing like, I think I did a Best Buy in-house like promo video for like the staff, you know, and I was excited. I was like, it's an acting job. And, you know, so it was tough going for a bit. And then I got lucky, very long random story, but I was working in a pub, and a girl who was at my theater school, she was a director, and she'd never seen my work or anything, but she was flyering at a nightclub down the road, and so she'd come into my pub before her shifts to have a cocktail, and we would chat. Anyway, her next job was casting at the Bush Theatre, which is like the greatest new writing theatre in London. And this writer had a new play, and he was adamant that he got a young North American person to play this role in a reading to try to get financing for his play. Her best friend was a Canadian who was my doppelganger, only more talented, more like prettier, all the things. She moved back to Canada a week before. It was so random. And she asked, can you do this reading? And I was like, I mean, yes. And so I ended up getting the job through that reading. And that was kind of my first theater gig that got me going, and that led to some nice jobs over there because it's quite a loyal town. And I got to do a lot of really interesting new American writing over there, which was cool. And made some pals in this town who were coming over there to do their plays. And eventually I got a job doing Look Back in Anger at the Roundabout here in New York. And which was, it was so ironic because like I was just dying to play an English role, you know, but like I had to leave England and cross the ocean to do it over here. So when I started out here, everybody thought I was English because of the play, and I was back and forth for a couple years until I like drowned in the Atlantic and just needed to move here. So it was kind of all a little bit of a happy accident. I ran out of visa options in the UK, and your lovely country gave a Canadian a visa, important thing. And I started working here mostly in theater, and then gently moved into television when someone would hire me. So moved off of my sister's couch.
And you're also nominated for an Olivier Award for Clybourne Park, which you then ended up playing on Broadway as well, right?
Yeah. Bruce Norris, who wrote that, shares your name. Bruce he's just one of the greatest writers we've got. And doing that play was interesting, actually, doing that play over there and over here, and like what got laughs in England and what got laughs here, and what felt like something that could be laughed at, but then over here, some of the wounds are still open, so many of them. So it was really an interesting experience, actually, doing the same play in two very different productions with very different audiences. It was kind of fascinating, actually.
So who were your role models as actors when you were starting out? Who do you
that's a good question.
Look to? Other than Annette Bening, clearly.
And other than Meryl Streep, because obviously. But I know Annette Bening. I really love Annette Bening. And I really loved Frances McDormand. I really love Marissa Tomei. I really love Parker Posey. She's like, I just love what she does. And I really loved all the Christopher Guest movies. And they were sort of probably the top few. I had like I'm trying to think of films I loved when I was a kid. It was like a strange mix. I was like watching The Princess Bride at the same time as Schindler's List when I was too young probably to fully understand either. I think I got really lucky when I was growing up because I had a great theater teacher at school who he'd been like the king of the fringe in Canada. And my school was kind of uptight and conservative, and he came in like really fiery, and he swore in class, and like no one could believe it. And he was so passionate, and he ran our theater program like we were professionals, and if you wanted to sign up for it, you were signing up for it. And we were in that theater every night from 3 when school finished till 10 p.m. and we did really ambitious plays. And he kind of taught me like a work ethic about it all. And he used to say things to me like, "You'll be so broke, but you'll be so happy." And, really, it set me up really well. And when I think about someone like Sally, like I felt really lucky that I don't think I went into it with any delusion. Like, I think he gave me a lot of fight and fire that, it's going to be hard. It might not, and it won't necessarily pay your bills. But if you really got to do this, you got to do it. And he helped me get into theater school in London, and we were sort of subversive. I remember we did like a few of the vagina monologues for a monologue competition, and everybody was so shocked. And it's like the word vagina, but I remember like I felt like I was set up really well in that regard, and he taught me a lot about good writers and good plays, and so I kind of went into it almost too realistic. Like I didn't really have this LA dream. Like I didn't, I'm sure I did a shampoo bottle speech or two, when I was 10, whatever, for awards, this kind of thing. But I wasn't, by the time I was actually going for it, I didn't have any delusions. I thought it was going to be really hard, and I thought I really wanted my own theater company, and he was kind of pushing me in that direction, which was really lucky, because I think you can go into it thinking it's something that it isn't. And I felt very prepared, actually, for what it was going to be like.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're in a film coming up that Annette Bening is also in.
I am.
The Report?
I am.
Did you get to work with
her? I did not play it cool, okay? I did. Well, I didn't really get to work with her. I did get to share the makeup trailer with her. There was one scene that my character was supposed to be in that she's in, but our lovely man, Dan Jones, who the film is based on, who is truly a hero, made the point that by this point my character would no longer have a Senate pass. And so...
She plays Dianne Feinstein
yes,
in the film.
Yes. And so I wouldn't be able to be there. So... but I did get to meet her a couple of times in passing, and she was so warm and lovely, and I got to watch her on the monitor, and I mean, she's just a master. I watched her like do the whole walk across the Senate floor as Dianne Feinstein, and the detail and the calm with what she's doing, it was, I mean, it's marvelous to watch. And I saw All My Sons, and she was fantastic in that as well.
A couple questions we ask everyone here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. What role got you your SAG card?
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually think it was Elementary. Yeah, doing a guest part on Elementary was the one. And yeah, I was delighted. Again, you say like culture things that I didn't understand how any of it worked here. And equity in the UK is a very different thing. It's very voluntary, which is not good. It shouldn't be. And I almost lost a friend when I was doing Clybourne Park. I wasn't in the union when I started, and my friend, is right. It's not good. And my friend Sam Spruill, who's a brilliant actor, was like, "Okay, well, we can put the friendship on hold until you sort that out, and let me know when you're equity." And he was absolutely right. So yeah, I didn't quite understand how it all worked here with SAG and everything. And yeah, but I was delighted, obviously, and yeah.
Did you have a British accent on Elementary, or did you play an American?
I did have a British accent. It's the one thing that I've got to do on telly that's a British accent. I have like 3 lines. It's not my finest work, so yeah, but it got me the card and a couple of residual checks. Shocking, yeah.
And the other question we ask is, what's the best piece of advice you've gotten from another actor that you can pass along to these actors?
Oh God, that is such a good question. Well, I suppose it's Michael Weiner, my theater teacher, who was an actor also, that it's not going to be easy, you're not going to be rich, but it's worth it. You'll be so happy. I mean, that, and I think, I don't know, I just think that we all signed up for this because we fucking love it. And we're lucky to get to do something that we love. And I think that it's really important to remember that when it's tough, because it's tough more than it's not. And even when you're working, it's still a part-time job, you know? And so I would say on that, it's important to have other things that really fill you up, whether it's travel or family or reading or writing or another job, or to fill you up in that downtime. Because I think that the drop-off points are the real challenges in this. When we're working, it's a joy, it's a joke that we're playing make-believe and getting paid. And when you're not working, it's truly challenging to feel useful and to feel needed and to feel like you have a purpose. And so I think really finding the things that fill you up in that time is just key to enjoying this ride.
A couple of questions from the audience.
Great.
From Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
Could you talk about the challenges posed by playing an actor at varying stages of skill and success?
I think what was really hard is like with season 1, like knowing I was going to have to get to that Macbeth speech and knowing that was going to have to read like it was really good. It's like no pressure. Pitching it like low enough at the start so that like whatever I did at the end of that seemed good regardless of how good it was. Because yeah, you definitely, we all have our insecure moments, and it's difficult to know whether something is good or not. And knowing that I had to kind of have an outside eye for her, that there is a trajectory here, was definitely challenging. And then also not to send her up, like it's not a joke. And she cares about this so much. And whenever I tried to play her doing bad acting, I think that the challenge was the intentions have to be in the right place. Like she's trying so hard for this. So not like sending that up and making fun of her, but actually sort of committing fully to what she's doing or trying to do, and then failing miserably, but making sure that it wasn't like laughing at her, if you know what I mean. Let the audience have the laugh, but like I treating it sort of like really seriously, I guess.
And last question. A couple of people asked this, actually. This is from Adam Griffin.
Hello, Adam. Hi.
Barry paints a hilariously dysfunctional picture of acting and the entertainment industry. What's the most Barry-esque acting experience you've had in real life?
Oh, my God. Oh, God. Well, that's really funny, actually, because I was thinking about this with my manager, best pal, and he used to work in casting, and we were talking about all the weird things we've seen. And I once went to an audition, and I'm sorry if you're here. The part called for, it was a mother, and, there's a baby in it, but, there's no baby necessarily in this scene. And this woman came in, and she brought a doll. And I thought, okay, to each their own. I've fake smoked in many an audition. She wants the baby. She wants to hold the baby. But then we were in the waiting room for a really long time, as you all know how many hours can go by. And she also brought a blanket. And she kept putting the blanket down and then the doll on the blanket and then doing baby burrito wraps, practicing and then taking the doll and then burping the doll. And I guess it's some kind of Stanislavski warm up. I don't know what was going on. I was nervous for her mental health, and I thought, this is Sally. She's one of the Sallys. Anyway, that's probably the most Barry moment I've witnessed. Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful show, and you're great on it. And congratulations on the Emmy nomination.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
Sarah Goldberg.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.